If you've been watching the show for even half as long as I've been doing it, you'll know that I often call Schlocktober my own personal escape from the weekly grind of keeping the brand relevant or topical in the era when this was a weekly reliable upload schedule. In some ways it still is that, but in other ways the show, and I'd like to think myself as host, have grown into the understanding that while escapism is healthy, there's a difference between wanting to take a break from being fully immersed in the all-encompassing noise of topical breaking news discourse and the obligation those of us in the professional opinion haver class have to have opinions on those things and tell you about them when we do, and completely willfully shutting out the world and the important things going on in it. It's one thing to recognize the need for a break from this or that argument of the day and one's own mental health, but you don't want to so actively seek total disengagement that you turn into the kind of person who not only feels unhappy with the present state of things, but flies into a white-hot emphasis on white, how dare you try to unplug me from the Matrix rage at even being reminded that the world of the present or the current year exists outside whenever you're trying to hide from it, like whatever was happening with this person-shaped thing. Anyway, that's basically a long and perhaps slightly too defensive way of me priming the pump to say if you notice any sort of topical tinge or relevant to the world around us bent to this or that selection of features this year, no, I didn't set out to make some more sweeping statement than usual. I'm not trying to spoil anyone's Halloween fun, especially my own. It's more just an acknowledgement that there's a political dimension to everything, because politics is simply the infrastructure of relations between people and the running of their society and civilization. Yes, even a movie about a serial killer who figures out how to kill people through the phone.
Science has created the ultimate instrument of death, your phone.
Hi.
You're telling me that a telephone killed the girl?
A madman pushes a button and kills by phone. Would you answer murder by phone?
Not only because in between the reason this movie exists and or hey, I got an idea for a movie scenes of what if you picked up the phone and instead of someone yelling at you or just being weird or whatever, your fucking head got blowed up, the plot filling the spaces is sort of a corporate conspiracy thriller about how telecom monopolies are bad and the industry-funded scientific studies will be used to cover up big business malfeasance, but we're mostly still here for the phone kills.
Smith.
No, the political dimension here is that Murder by Phone is a 1982 Canadian film, and in fact part of the tail end of a boom time in Canadian national cinema known as the tax shelter era, which was exactly what it sounds like. In 1975, the Canadian government decided that it wanted to supercharge the country's domestic film production business and instituted a policy whereby if you were a Canadian taxpayer and invested money in making a Canadian-produced movie, you could take a write-off of up to 100% of that investment, yes, 100% as in all of it, on your taxes. Yes, even if the movie failed, the investors would still get their money back and the government would handle it.
Money, money!
Money!
Did it work? I mean, of course it worked. They let people write tons of taxes off so long as they dumped it into movies first. Thing is, if you're smart, or you think you're smart, you also want to make some profit back up front, so what kind of movies ended up getting brought to investors in the first place, at least at the beginning? Stuff that wouldn't cost too much to make, but could potentially hit a high return. Horror, budget sci-fi, gritty action, B-level copies of Hollywood blockbusters, lowbrow comedies, or sometimes interesting, provocative stuff that hungry young artists could smuggle in disguised as one of those. Hello, Mr. David Cronenberg, whose career as a filmmaker of note pretty much exists because of early films he got made under the tax shelter system. Within 5 years, the output of domestic movie production in Canada increased by a factor of 25. That's 25 times the number of movies, not 25 movies total.
That explains a lot.
But because the types of movies largely getting produced, not all, but many, were often of a disreputable character in the eyes of, for example, some Canadian film critics who'd previously held up the country's standard as an alternative to the Hollywood profit-driven system to the South as a kind of status symbol, it was heavily criticized in the media. One critic titled a review of Cronenberg's Shivers with, "You should know how bad this film is, after all, you paid for it," and thus not very strongly defended when the inevitable question of, is this really the best use of federal resources, honestly inevitably came up over the much more salient issue that letting businessmen use productions as tax shelters would lead to bloated cost overruns, poor management, outright corruption, and bad oversight all around. But some of the movies, actually kinda good. Not this one, though.
Sounds pretty off the wall to me. I mean, a telephone killing people.
I've told you nothing but facts.
Murder by Phone almost plays like a parody of tax shelter-era Canadian sci-fi horror, except that no one making it knows it's funny. High-concept premise, elaborate violent effects-driven death scenes, slumming A-list of the B-list actors like Richard Chamberlain and John Houseman doing all they can to sell that, yes, this is really a movie about getting blown up by your phone, and some mild gestures in the direction of anti-corporate muckraking. Ostensibly, it's a murder mystery. A young woman is, well, murdered by phone in an opening scene.
Oh, that's why they call it that.
Her father reaches out to Chamberlain as his old friend Nat Bridger, college professor and environmentalist lecturer, to investigate because he thinks the reported cause of death, a healthy 19-year-old suffering a random heart attack, is suspicious.
Drugs? Drugs? I'll have to say drugs too.
So he launches into detective work that mostly involves walking into the police station and the phone company and annoying people while pretending not to know things he mostly already knows.
Thank you for letting us know. We'll have someone...
It's already been repaired. I'm interested in knowing why.
Well, you might try a letter to our service people.
Well, I thought I'd try in person, as you can see. Perhaps your supervisor could give me a hand.
I'm afraid this really isn't the right department to answer your question.
Then I would like to speak to your supervisor.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Bridger. And let's not make a big deal out of this. Please, your supervisor.
Once the phone company makes it belligerently clear, they 100% are covering something up.
A young woman had a heart attack there. A witness suggested it might in some way be related to a telephone. I don't know, a malfunction or something.
That'd be impossible, of course.
Of course. Maybe I could just find out why the phone was replaced.
Go home, Mr. Bridger. The law protects us from people like you.
Yeah? And just what the hell protects the people from people like you? I've seen the telephones, Webb, so you know I know.
I don't know about any telephones, Bridger. And what you know gets you less than bus fare.
And after that, it's basically a movie about watching a dude go through the extremely meticulous details of here's how easy it is to do amateur sleuthing via property vandalism, lying to the cops, illegally trespassing, and breaking and entering when you're a mild-mannered looking white guy so everyone assumes you belong there, in between the actually very entertaining phone that blows you up scenes.
Hello?
Dr. Markowitz?
Yes?
You're getting too close.
Close to what? I don't know.
Until it's time for the movie to be over, so he solves the crime just by kind of going into the right room in the phone company's basement, finding the machine that blows you up through the phone, and saying, hey, that looks like a machine that would blow you up through the phone, to another guy who then says, oh yeah, good eye, that's the machine that blows you up through the phone.
You could send a thing like that down the line?
Sure, yeah. Use the receiver as a capacitor. Store up the voltage input to the point of spontaneous discharge and,
Sounds simple.
Not really, no. You working on it or something?
Sort of, yeah.
Next up is St. Louis, then he's gonna come back through Chicago on his way to Detroit.
Thanks. You know, for a security guard, he had an awful lot of information, don't you think?
I do like the very realistic time is a flat circle, early 80s resigned cynicism where the return of corporate monopolism is treated as such a nihilistic fact of life that once this is worked out, the phone company, which has in fact been covering up the whole someone is killing people with phones murder spree, is all too eager to help the hero set up an elaborate third-act sting operation to bring the perpetrator down once they figure out who it is, and the idea that they're gonna get away with the rest of it, like the covering up and all, is just kind of an accepted, yeah, I guess that's gonna happen fact.
To hell with him. Let's go to the media.
You really think that's a responsible thing to do? Create mass hysteria, get us shut down. Do you realize what that would mean? About 24 people would die every 60 seconds because they couldn't contact a doctor, a policeman, a fireman.
You had any ransom demands?
It's all being looked after by the brightest and best at every level.
Yeah, every level except police.
Later.
Talk to the commissioner.
This is Mr. Gilsdorf. He's here to represent the commissioner's office. Right, Mr. Gilsdorf?
That's right.
You know anything about electrical flashback?
Of course. Odds are the call will come through on the main number, sometime just 410.
From a local exchange?
Yeah, I'd say you're looking at a 4-digit trace.
This is going to take some time.
God damn it, I started as a lineman. I know how long it's going to take.
You damn fool. I'm helping you. I'm helping you get rid of the world's real garbage.
Lock on 3, second digit.
Log on 3, second digit.
You're stalling for time. You're trying to trace this call.
Two. Log on 2.
We'd like to bury this incident, Bridger. If it can be done once, well, there's nothing that you can paint or Bridger can publish which could be harmful to us for very long.
Hooray! A happy ending for the rich people!
And I have to imagine that it might be more funny in a surreal way for those of you under 25, 30 at this point to see what's otherwise what we'd now call a techno-thriller based entirely around a then cutting-edge analog world where the big buzzy new hotness is still
Cable, switches, long distance, the electronic switching system. All the calculations are made from this room. Designed and built by our cybernetics branch in 1977 at a cost of $450 million.
And everyone is still walking everywhere, writing stuff down, taking in-person meetings, and making phone calls to do all of this tech-related investigating. I mean, I actually lived in this period for almost half my life, and watching it now feels as alien as if this is taking place on fucking Middle-earth.
Don't let them fool you, RT. They're scared.
They're scared. They run the world and they're scared of what? Of you? Tough Nat Bridger? What are you doing?
I'm taking you up on your offer.
Better do what he says. He's a whale biologist.
It's also, it has to be said, extremely well directed for the kind of complete nonsense that it is. It's really well blocked and composed. There's all these ominous established ants-eye view of skylines, cool use of reflective skyscraper windows, effective background-foreground action, solid long takes for suspense, effective mid-saturation, high-contrast color palette, and it's got one of legendary composer John Barry's very few electronic synth scores as a bonus. I mean, I can't really salvage how stupid the premise is or how boring the actual on-the-page narrative of Richard Chamberlain casually sneaks around Toronto and asks people what they know about the phone that makes you blow up if you answer it, but it almost does.
Some turkey must have taken a flamethrower to the receiver.
Just the receiver, huh?
Yeah. There wasn't even a mark on the box there. Don't really make sense.
Could it have been the voltage? Maybe some in the electroacoustic transducer.
You some kind of phone freak?
Gym teacher.
You can probably chalk a lot of that up to the director, Michael Anderson, who had a dazzlingly eclectic career before and after this. Like much of the cast, is basically working below his weight class, because this was the era when Cheap Jack movie producers understood that hiring seasoned but undervalued professionals who knew what they were doing was a smart way to save money during production, because you got better work back with fewer do-overs in a quicker turnaround. A British filmmaker who started out doing classy war movies and dramas, including the classic The Dam Busters, the first movie version of 1984, and taking over the troubled production of Around the World in 80 Days in 1956 before moving to Hollywood after that film ended up winning a Best Picture Oscar in the 60s to make thrillers and action movies like Naked Edge, Flight from Ashia, Operation Crossbow, The Quiller Memorandum, and The Shoes of a Fisherman. That one is about a Ukrainian former labor camp prisoner who becomes Pope and tries to stop a nuclear war between China and the USSR, by the way.
Starring Sir Laurence Olivier, Sir John Gielgud, Oscar Werner, David Jansen, Barbara Jefford, Vittorio De Sica, Leo McKern, and Anthony Quinn as the first Russian Pope.
I'm sorry, will you please repeat that?
I want to show you a world gone mad.
in which we starve a great country into an atomic war.
Your Holiness is proposing the incredible.
The impossible.
You gave me absolute power. You must submit to my use of it.
Words are cheap.
When the future of mankind hangs in the balance, what risks do you take? The answer rests with one man. A man who walks in the shoes of the fisherman.
Oh, man, I've been dying to see Maniac Pope 2. The first one was awesome.
And then in the 70s, he went about as 70s as you can go. He did Logan's Run, Pope Joan, Dominique, Doc Savage, The Man of Brawn, and Schlocktober favorite Orca, the Killer Whale. In the 80s, he made two high-concept sex comedies, Second Time Lucky and Separate Vacations, The Jeweler Shop, which is an adaptation of a play written by Pope John Paul II.
Holy Mother! It's the Holy Father! I am not worthy.
And the high-concept sci-fi Millennium, the 80s TV miniseries version of The Martian Chronicles, and Murder by Phone. Throughout the 90s, he finished up with a handful of classy TV movies, a pair of family films, Summer of the Monkeys, which was generally well regarded, and the sequel to The New Adventures of Pinocchio, which was not as much. That, my friends, is the kind of life and filmography where everyone will gladly overlook the time you made a Canadian tax shelter movie about people getting blown up by their telephones. You should all be so lucky.
I'll call you.
This movie is actually kind of hard to find around these days. It wasn't a big hit, not super well remembered, but if you ever wanted to watch a movie about Canadians getting blown up by their phones, this is the one to watch. Yeah, I'm Bob, and that's the big picture. Schlocktober will continue next week. Hey, did you enjoy learning more about Canadian movie production financing history and an eclectic director's filmography than necessarily the premise of a not terribly interesting movie because it wasn't terribly interesting last time? Well, this week's movie has pretty girls in cavewoman costume. I can't promise there's not still more to talk about around it than in it, though. Anyway, you know who kind of sucks? Bill Maher.
They kind of believe that you're owed a living as a writer, and you're not.
I'm glad the rest of the world is starting to come around on this too, because for a long time it was low-key irritating that so many people seem reluctant to say that this particular dude just didn't have it or was kind of full of shit as a comedian or a political commentator. Well, okay, not everybody.
Today's audience watches wrestling, and they are in on the joke. That's not an insult.
I take it as an insult, too.
I do, too.
I mean, when a metal chair cracks your back, that's not fake. There's never a bruise on any of you.
Baloney, you got a minute? Look at this. No.
Metal hip. Broken wrist. Owen Hart, dead. Why don't you go tell Mrs. Hart what a joke it is, huh?
You're saying that Islamophobia is not a real thing. That if you're critical of something...
Well, it's not a real thing when we do it.
Right.
Well, no, it really isn't.
I'm not.
Why are you so hostile about this concept?
It's gross. It's racist.
It's not. But it's so not.
It's like saying those stateless, shifty Jew.
You're not listening to what we are saying.
You got to do what? We've killed more Muslims than they've killed us by an awful lot. We've invaded more Muslims.
I am not for more killing.
An awful lot. Yet somehow we're exempted from these things because they're not really a reflection of what we believe in. We did by accident. That's why we invaded Iraq and put 4 million people.
We're not.
Man, that last one was 8 years ago. Ben Affleck is good. He's good. Good guy. Oh, I promise this is all relevant, by the way. Yeah, not going to bury the lead as some kind of build-up reveal or whatever. Bill Maher is in today's movie. That's the point of all this, just, establishing some context. Anyway, regarding Maher, it's weird that this specific guy has endured as a thing in political comedy despite having now fully aged into his old man, whining about how the young people won't agree with him, about how correct his opinions have always been, and how cool he still is phase.
If this spike in trans children is all natural, why is it regional? Either Ohio is shaming them or California is creating them.
Like, we're more than 20 years out into the post-Jon Stewart Daily Show, every comedian is a political comedian era of comedy, and here's a guy who was not a hugely successful stand-up, failed spectacularly to establish himself as a movie star, as we're about to see.
I am Yasuhiro Nakasone, former Prime Minister of Japan.
Oh,
Okay, yes, I am sorry. You're the guy who got caught paying off his mistress?
She was not a mistress. She was a geisha.
Yeah. So are the girls up on Oriental Massage on Sunset.
In the exact moment in comedy history where pretty much any smarmy white dude who could hit a type 5 of observational sarcasm at the Chuckle Hut and had a marginally good LA cocaine hookup could land a sitcom pilot, and he's not only still kicking around but treated as a quasi-legit voice in political commentary, and still doing so entirely from clout built off the foundation of having been the guy in the chair on Politically Incorrect, the origin of which was someone at Comedy Central figured out that the McLaughlin Group but B-list celebrities and comedians with something to promote instead of politicians and academics to debate the news was a decent unscripted TV pitch, and Bill Maher was the level of topical comedy guy you could get to host that for what basic TV was offering in the 90s.
And I'm not dropping my pants in front of other men, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, how'd you get the job?
But then the show got popular enough to move to ABC. He said a 9/11 thing and it got canceled, so everyone had to feel bad for him because if you didn't, you were siding with Fox News or whatever. HBO gave him basically a new version of the same show, but where people could speak uncensored, which was good, but also Maher got to do a lot more monologuing and shout down the guests and the audience when they disagreed with him, which was less good. But, you know, it's HBO and ratings matter less, and was one of the shows to get booked on for a good stretch, and now we're stuck with this fucking guy, even as he makes every effort at executing a reverse Jon Stewart and leaping backwards into his own rabbit hole of becoming everything you once pretended to hate: ignorance and regression.
The don't say gay bill, first of all, it doesn't say that in it. It doesn't say don't say gay. Parents were not unreasonably concerned that schools had become a place where kids were being exposed to ideas.
Like the fact that he eventually went out and bothered with Barbie, a movie he was definitely gonna hate, so he could get in on whining about it, struck me as funny for several reasons, but none so much as the reminder of how one of his earliest attempts at not even a little bit making it as a movie star was actually a cult classic trafficking in exactly the type of politics and social satire of the male ego he now apparently finds so upsetting. It's also, in hindsight, probably the only thing he's done that's really stood the test of time. Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death.
Wait a second. What's that I hear? Let's get out of here. What, are you nuts? Look at them. They're dangerous. They don't look dangerous. They look lonely.
Yeah, okay, so what we've pretty much got here is an ultra-cheap, mostly on-purpose parody of the, by then, this was 1989 by the way, winding-down genre of jungle adventure cannibal exploitation movie, like Cannibal Holocaust, Make Them Die Slowly, Slave of the Cannibal God, etc., framed around a narrative send-up of the Heart of Darkness, Apocalypse Now plot infused with topical satire about late 1980s gender politics, specifically American feminism in the post-Reaganism backlash era. Our setup, with the United States supposedly facing a looming avocado shortage, a military unit sent to penetrate the supposedly deadly avocado jungle in San Bernardino, California, have gone missing, likely victims of the Piranha Women, a legendary tribe of cannibal Amazons believed to control the unexplored deepest regions of that jungle.
So radical, so militant, so left of center, they eat their men.
Oh, that. Well, if I like a guy, I usually started...
They don't eat their men like that, Bunny. Dog tags?
Look closely. They're covered with guacamole dip.
Believing that a peaceful solution can be achieved, government agents reach out to Shannon Tweed as feminist studies professor Margot Hunt to lead a small non-military expedition consisting of herself, her undergraduate intern Bunny, and one guide to lead them into the jungle with the aim of making contact with the Piranha Women and offering them relocation to a condo community reservation in Malibu, with the added incentive that Margot may also discover what became of her colleague, Dr. Francine Kurtz, another feminist scholar eventually played by Adrienne Barbeau, previously sent to contact the Piranha Women who went missing some time ago.
Dr. Kurtz? Internationally famous author of Smart Women, Stupid, Insensitive Men?
Yes.
That explains her sudden disappearance from the talk show circuit.
Oh, and that's Karen Mistel from Return of the Killer Tomatoes as Bunny, by the way.
Bunny! Oh, no. Bunny! I just found a big kitty.
So after wrestling up a guide and settling on Maher as Jim because he's there, they're off into the jungle, and yeah, this is what we're doing.
This is it. The Avocado Jungle.
Doesn't look like a jungle.
The outer regions aren't very overgrown, but foliage gets thicker the deeper you go.
There is no avocado jungle or any jungle in San Bernardino. That's the joke. We're very obviously just watching actors walk around the kind of woodsy parts of suburban Southern California and UC Riverside College pretending to be in a slightly less cheap version of the very cheap movie that they're in.
We'll head down to some local establishments and see if we can find a mercenary to guide us through the jungle.
I've never been to San Bernardino before.
Don't worry, Bunny. We'll be all right.
A hippo, look!
A hippo? California?
The Palm Springs hippo. It's a lighter version than its African cousin because of the low cholesterol diet, but it's just as deadly.
Oh my God, it's charging at the boat!
We're gonna down! Don't let it broadside us, Jim! Hard a port! Hard a port!
Port, is that left or right?
Left!
So what we've got here is the rare dialogue-driven movie spoof, where there are a handful of slapstick gags and some visual humor, but the overwhelming amount of comedy is coming from conversation and character interaction, almost all of which are built around one consistently, actually pretty clever setup. Yes, this looks like and has the plot of a cheap, softcore girls in skimpy costumes in the jungle exploitation movie, but that's actually just the backdrop for the characters to dialogue aggressively about shitty gender politics of the late 80s, largely from the perspective of feminist and/or liberal progressive frustration at the macho reassertive feminism got too angry and went too far culture war that had permeated so much media, particularly in comedies of the time.
This is going to be a toga party and a beer bust. And for special girls like you, we are going to be having a wet t-shirt contest.
But all my t-shirts are dry.
You're coming with me.
I can go?
You'd be safer in the jungle.
With Tweed showing a lot more range than she ever really got credit for in her later career as the nominal straight woman, Maher as the asshole punching bag, and Mistal doing deadpan reactions to both of them.
Jim, what are you doing?
Knocking out a trail through the underbrush.
The trail is clear. You're just hacking at branches on the side.
Yeah, but I just bought the machete. It seemed like a shame not to use it. Anyway, it's good practice when the jungle really gets thick, you know. Sometimes I swing 2 or 3, then it's really light.
I think you look really handsome with a machete.
Thank you, Bunny.
It really is pretty striking just how much disdain the movie really does have for Maher's character versus how much it's really on the side of Tweed's Margot as the kind of character who is otherwise really only ever be the butt of a joke or maybe a villain in most comedies like this. Even a whole sequence involving a tribe of subservient men called the Donahues as a topical reference to a now mostly forgotten liberal talk show host of the era winds up as an excuse to make Jim look like a dumbass in his attempts to liberate them into proper masculinity.
Hey, sexy mama!
Hey, sexy mama!
Hey, love machine!
Hey, love machine!
That's it. You wanna go for a ride in my vet?
You wanna go for a ride in my vet?
Yeah, that was pretty good. All right.
Chick. Broad. Sexy mama.
What? Dr. Holland, no! Dr. Holland!
Of course, if you've seen Apocalypse Now or Red Heart of Darkness, you know where this is going when they eventually find the Piranha Women. Dr. Kurtz has in fact joined the tribe, set herself up as leader, and is responsible for the recent problems, but with a twist.
The future of feminism lies in this temple.
Dr. Kurtz, I'm unfamiliar with the academic guidelines at Radcliffe, but I would think any major university would consider warring on the United States and eating prisoners of war a serious breach of ethics.
The reactionary male factions are terrified of them. Terrified of the example a nation of strong women might set for the rest of the country. After they succeeded in stopping the ERA, in the wake of a mainstream feminist backlash, they figured it was the perfect time to wipe out the Piranha Women for good.
But the reservations in Malibu.
They didn't tell you about were the thousands of subscriptions to Cosmopolitan that were timed for delivery when the Piranha Women took up residence. Not to mention the team of Mary Kay cosmetics saleswomen who were ready to pounce upon them. They had a secret plan for doing away with the Piranha Women. Something far more sinister than an armored division of infantry.
Cultural assimilation.
Then comes the political orientation.
Yeah, and we got Billy Schlafly on standby.
Within 5 years, the Piranha Women would have been just a bunch of bikini bunnies bouncing around Malibu searching for a good sushi bar.
I know a great sushi bar in Malibu. You go down Sunset, turn right at PCH.
You see?
And a few more twists on the twist.
If you girls are eating only men, you cannot possibly be getting everything you need from the 4 basic food groups!
Thousands of years ago, the Piranha Women and Barracuda Women were as one. But we split over ideological differences.
What were they?
The Piranha Women believe that men should be slaughtered and eaten with guacamole dip.
And you think that's wrong?
Yes! We believe they should be eaten with with clam dip.
Outline for a book. It's true. I was planning a book, but it was going to be a scholarly work.
Oh, hardly, Kurt. You spent too much time in the jungle. Field methodology is sloppy. Your conclusion's shaky. Even Cher Height couldn't get away with the generalizations you make in your outline. You're no better than the chauvinists who sent us here.
Right. I was exploiting the Piranha women. You don't know what it's like trying to face David Letterman with a book on male insensitivity. David Letterman. The horror. The horror of that show. The horror.
This is all very funny, and now with the benefit of time, downright fascinating as a cultural artifact considering how much has changed and also how much hasn't. The preferred narrative for social satire in pop culture tends to center on big, popular landmarks that either triggered or happened in tandem with nascent but prevailing cultural shifts like Blazing Saddles, so it's really something to see a spoof from this era aiming very much for broad appeal comedy but also hitting back at what were the prevailing and unfortunately very successful social politics of a lot of broad appeal comedy of the time, several years before much of the pop culture discourse turned around and got on the same relative page that this movie is already on.
Elvis Presley.
Janis Joplin.
Patton.
Joan of Arc.
How about Tammy Baker?
Jim Baker. Jerry Falwell. Jimmy Swaggart.
Jessica Hunt. Fawn Hall. Done it right.
Joseph McCarthy. Richard Nixon.
Joan Rivers.
Joan Rivers? I like Joan Rivers. I think she's funny.
Well, I think Nixon's funny.
I think you'd like to eat me right now, wouldn't you, Dr. Hunt?
Dr. Hunt wouldn't eat
Colonel, control yourself.
Dr. Hunt is a respected middle-of-the-road feminist. And I'm sure she'll be happy to cooperate with us, especially when she considers how much this university depends upon grants from the Defense Department for its space weaponry program.
What you do is you set up a joint committee consisting of equal numbers of Piranha women and Barracuda women. You meet bi-weekly, air any differences that might arise.
Hey, let me carry the gun. Just to the edge of the jungle. Come on, I mean, you drove and everything, but let me carry the gun. You know, all the Piranha chicks are watching.
This was actually an early writer-director project for J.F. Lawton, who also wrote and directed the other, less interesting attempt at a star vehicle for Maher, Pizza Man, where he's actually the lead and definitely can't carry the project, and also the pretty solid Christopher Lambert ninja movie The Hunted. He also did the original, much darker screenplay that became Pretty Woman, created the TV show VIP, and wrote Blank Man, Under Siege 1 and 2, Chain Reaction, and the Dead or Alive movie, so respect.
You handle yourself fairly well. I studied ancient weaponry at Berkeley. Professor Harris? No, Professor Johnson. Really? Michael Johnson at Stanford.
And seriously, I know I'm mainly bringing it up here in part to riff on the fact of Maher being in it and this seemingly disposable 35-year-old movie being the most actual worthwhile thing in his filmography, but even setting him cheerfully aside, probably the best reason to revisit this now is how shockingly good Tweed is doing a parody character who can't act like they know they're in a parody of the sort of movie they might otherwise actually make routine.
When I offer a chick a drink,
I am not a chick. I'm an ethnohistorian with a doctorate in cultural anthropology. Got that?
Yes, Doctor.
Good. Now I understand that your compulsion to assault women verbally stems from a constant exposure to violent and sexist images from a male-dominated media. Therefore, I won't blow a hole in your head.
Thank you.
Given that even by 1989 she was mainly famous for being a one-time Playmate of the Year and megastar of low-budget erotic thrillers, it's not so much surprising that she nails the deadpan and has action heroine poise fit for the authentic version of this nonsense than it is that more better productions didn't recognize those skills and let her use them. I mean, what might have been?
The world's most beautiful women.
Who will be the new Miss Galaxy? It's time to find out.
The underworld's most violent killers. And a beauty pageant wired for death. Now the terrorists have run into the one thing they didn't count on. A lady who knows that a woman's place is in your face.
Get her! Deactivate the wristbands now.
Starring Robert Davi of Die Hard, Andrew Dice Clay of The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, and Playmate of the Year Shannon Tweed, like you've never seen her before. No contest.
Now it's up to two vice cops. One hard.
The hell are you looking at?
And one soft.
Not much.
To blow open the world of high-priced call girls who are being paid in blood.
I'm gonna drop you!
Hard Vice, starring Sam Jones and Shannon Tweed.
Wow, this is a good movie!
Anyway, this used to be on Comedy Central a lot because of Maher's involvement, and these days it's very easy to find, so go hunt it down. It's not exactly the scariest cannibalism movie you'll ever see, but it might be one of the funniest. It's also very clever and very ahead of its time. I'm Bob, and that's The Big Picture. Schlocktober continues next week. So, let's just jump right into this. Being primarily an online film critic, commentator, guy who makes the word sounds into the talk box with the pictures over it on the internet machine, whatever you want to call this, kind of means you move from platform to platform over years, and unless you're talented enough, lucky enough, already rich and or well-connected enough starting out to move up into the higher ranks of it, and I am none of those things, never have been, maybe never will be, right away, you pretty much look at audience turnover once every few years as a new crop of people file in and out of workspaces that need audiovisual distraction, and that's your job to provide. Basically,
I get older, they stay the same age.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
I should probably find a less sleazy clip for that, right? Anyway, a side effect is that you start to see the same film and pop culture discourses pop up again and again, as the internet has at this point decisively proven that instead of fixing our inability to learn from things and repeat our past mistakes, it is instead a machine that makes them much worse. Case in relevant point, now that we're making King Kong movies pretty regularly again, I think we just got a new trailer for the next versus Godzilla one. Hey, yeah, that looks pretty good. Every year or two we get a fresh round of people on the internet realizing with shock and horror that it's possible to read King Kong as a metaphor for stuff. And also that not every Quentin Tarantino movie is as well memorized as people think it is, because otherwise you'd think this was settled up for at least all the self-styled film buffs out there.
Fuhr ich da mit dem Schiff?
Ja.
Geschah die Reise gegen meinen Willen?
Ja.
Auf der Schiffsreise lag ich deinen Ketten.
Ja.
Als ich in Amerika ankam, wurde ich deinen Ketten zur Schau gestellt.
Ja.
Bin ich die Geschichte des Negers in Amerika?
Nein.
Also dann muss ich King Kong sein.
Ah.
But alright, cards on the table, I don't actually know that it's 100% clear that Marion C. Cooper and the other makers of King Kong saw their movie as any kind of one-to-one miscegenation parable. I mean, is it plausible? Yeah, absolutely, sure. What we would now call absurdly racist general assumptions underpinning basic elements of story structure and imagination were then just called how people were. Things changed. The past was generally a bad place. Everybody smelled terrible, smoked too much, spit tobacco everywhere. They got terrible diseases, believed in stupid shit, food was terrible, largely you died young for dumb reasons, and you generally better off now. The past sucked, fuck the Roman Empire, and its general alternatives. Things are better now. Now, in all seriousness, the reason I think these kind of readings jump out at people is that King Kong, the original, not some super racist surface-level movie like a lot of stuff from the fucking 30s and even much later is. I mean, like, you can see Mickey Rooney play a Japanese guy in Breakfast at Tiffany's from 1961.
I protest! Oh, darling, I am sorry, but I lost my key. But that was 2 weeks ago. You cannot go on or keep ringing my bell.
Mr. Go right way. This time I'm warning you. I am definitely this time going to call in the police.
That's racist, man. Yeah, that's just straight ignorant, dog.
Yeah, and I think most people get why that was a problem. Even if you think it's not a big deal, you get why it's not okay. Whereas King Kong obviously has a lot of exoticism, not great representation and caricature happening when it comes to this made-up tribe of black natives sacrificing people to their gorilla god. It's mostly guilty of them being dehumanized fantasy props and cannon fodder that the film at worst vilifies and at best doesn't really care about than anything else in terms of on-screen narrative. So is that a racist movie is a question that comes down to how widely you want to apply that designation. You know, when the context is, it's a movie made in the defaults of a racist society, which also applies to movies like now. It doesn't go out of its way to be so, like a lot of other things in that era did, but I also wouldn't feel compelled to run out and give it an NAACP award just because nobody throws a watermelon or uses the N-word with a hard R.
It's hard to explain this to a young person, but people of my generation are, you know...
racist.
That's it!
back to the metaphor, I think it hits a nerve for people that other readings of things don't, because you kind of get it right away, but also you don't because it's weird. It doesn't feel one-to-one when you think about it, and then
he is an articulate spokesman for those far-left views. The last thing we need to do is to monkey this up by trying to embrace a socialist agenda.
Oh, yeah, right, okay, there it is.
You're nothing but an overgrown monkey!
Those monkeys from those African countries. Damn them, they're still uncomfortable wearing shoes.
You monkey!
Wait, but monkeys aren't only from one part of the world, and did people really understand that back then? And, it's not like your average American racist from between the beginning of the country up through the Civil War and into even the 30s had like some deep knowledge of indigenous African wildlife. So Cletus, the Grand Wizard of the Clan, wasn't going, oh yeah, gorillas, that's a perfect anthropomorphic caricature animal to compare the black man to, certainly. Was that happening? Who knows? And then the whole apes crawling up and pawing at helpless women and carrying them off, that's a thing in movies, specifically way before, during, and after Kong did it with a giant ape, but it's not really a gorilla thing in reality. Chimpanzees are really more documented to be the animal that messes with humans, wounded humans, young humans, etc. Gorillas are really more of a don't start anything, won't be anything animal in reality. So where does this come from? Did it come from anywhere? Or did people just start pulling this out of their ass as a thing to say about King Kong movies for attention? Like, we ran out of good movies to have discourse about, so find a hot take on King Kong. Turns out, kind of the other way around, believe it or not. Yeah, see, King Kong, probably not totally verifiably, but very likely got at least the idea for Save Girl from Ape Sacrifice, or picked it up in the zeitgeist, from a very different previous hit movie that was definitely, no argument at all, super racist about the whole thing, and that movie was called Ingagi.
I didn't sneeze.
Yeah, so now that we've successfully unburied the very buried lead here, Ingagi is a film from Congo Pictures, released in 1930, purporting to be an ethnographic documentary, comprised of footage shot by the exploration crew of London explorer Sir Hubert Winstead, in a previously unexplored region of the Belgian Congo, wherein he documented the discovery of numerous fascinating new species of animal and a tribe of natives who worship local gorillas as protector gods and placate them by gifting young women as sex slaves to the gorillas. Winstead claims to present evidence of these lascivious details and more, and most of it plays out like... Look, just here's some of the movie. Take a look.
We strolled through the streets of the town, noting the primitive methods, the mode of transportation, the quaint mixture of natives and aliens. The natives attempted to show us up with their primitive weapons.
The cry of a full-grown leopard is about as unpleasant a sound as one cares to hear. It sent a chill down my spine when I heard it for the first time. Out it came like a flash of tawny light, and I pulled the trigger.
At last we had penetrated into the heart of the Ingagi country, where no white man had ever been before. We were ready to believe almost anything now.
The African husband, not unlike some others, believes in letting the better half do the work.
A company of women, unclothed, apparently living like animals. Could these tales be true? Tales we had regarded as mere legends of a native tribe, lowest of all in the scale of humanity.
May I suggest, ladies, that this is a wonderful and efficient way of reducing? You may observe that many of the native women are quite shapely. These simple native hearts seem to hold a dark knowledge of hidden things and strange mysteries, beating like the tom-tom, an unending rhythm in the soul of the black.
Strange traffic with the great apes, creatures scarcely less intelligent than themselves. One had a child hugged to her breast, a strange-looking child, seemingly more ape than human. Our headman made inquiries and reported. To our amazement, he told us that this was the night the tribe sacrificed a woman to the Ingagi, but little suspecting what was in store for us. The brute pounced upon her, and she screamed like one possessed. But the limit had been reached, and at last he fired. While the gorilla is seldom the aggressor, He was now being robbed of his legitimate prey and was prepared to fight to the last ditch. Dropping the woman, he came on with roars that seemed to shake the very earth. His struggle with death was awesome, with almost human screams of agony. He twisted and turned, and at last lay still.
So, yeah, that's complete bullshit.
Egg.
Sir Hubert Winstead was not a real person. Most of that footage was either shot at Griffith Park Zoo or borrowed from other actual or slightly less fake documentaries. The new animal species, like the tortadillo there.
Captain Swain came across an animal of such queer character that no one could give a name to it. It seemed like a cross between an armadillo and a tortoise, so Swain called it a tortadillo. So far as we have been able to learn, it is a species hitherto unknown to science.
Yeah, that's just a regular-ass turtle with other makeup appliances glued to its shell. The African tribe are actors for the most part. The gorillas were just guys in costumes. Most of this was shot around Los Angeles. Nobody got sacrificed or gorilla sexed, thankfully. It's a total hoax. They faked all of this. This is all fake. They made it up.
He's lying. Shut up, I'm a liar too. Yeah, but you're not as good a liar as this guy.
They just completely made this shit up and put it out as a documentary, and they made a lot of money in 1930 dollars off the prospect of, yeah, we got footage of a tribe in Africa where they give girls to monkeys and they do fucked up shit with them. You want to see? And of course, people wanted to see that. I mean, do you know how much money freak shows still made back then? A lot. Probably the same kind of money this did. Like, of course that worked. Don't pretend we're any better now. Don't pretend David Zaslav wouldn't schedule a block of that shit right between Growing Belushi and 90 Day Fiancé love games if he could. But, you know, even in the 30s, you actually could fuck around with stuff like that too much. I mean, not about the horrifically racist and misogynist content, obviously, but, you know, this was still the two different bathrooms era, but you could fuck around being reckless with people's money, and Ingagi actually did too well at the box office for people to, like, not pay attention. You know, like film critics, newspapers, journalists, just reporters in general started to get skeptical and write articles about how it looked kind of fishy. I mean, look, we're between two world wars, TV isn't a thing yet, something isn't good on the radio all the time, there's not always a boxing match or a baseball game people are interested in. You gotta talk to people about something, so hey, did you see that crazy gorilla movie Ingagi? Eventually turns into, yeah, I did, but I also heard they maybe faked it? What? And then the Motion Picture Producers and Distributors of America put out some paperwork and feelers asking around about this since, hey, people are talking. Now think about that for a minute. If you're the guys who did this, you made a fake gorilla documentary, you made a shitload of money off it, you basically got away with it up to this point, it's 1930, so to keep getting away with it, all you really gotta do is put all the money in like just a bag, start wearing a different hat, change your name on one or two documents, get on a train, go to a different town, and you're basically in the clear. Paper trail broken, you have vapor, there's no internet, no Google Maps, they can't track you. Like, you're gonna get away with this. So what's the stupidest possible thing you could do instead? Yeah, so they did that. The guys who made Ingagi sued the MPPDA for defamation, claiming damages because they'd raised questions as to whether or not their fake movie was fake.
You wish you were a millionaire. You want more money. Guess what? You blew it.
So when you sue for something like that, the claim has to be investigated by the Federal Trade Commission, and the guys you sued have to look at your records. That's called discovery, which of course is what happened. And the FTC concluded that the movie was fake. Because the movie was fake.
Knock, knock. Who's there? You blew it.
You blew it who?
You blew it bad.
So not only did Congo Pictures not get their defamation money, they had to take anything that suggested their fake movie was real out of circulation as misleading marketing, which included the entire movie itself.
You know what the last page in the book is? A mirror, so you can see exactly who blew it. Being you.
So for a long time, you just couldn't see Ingagi. You couldn't watch it. It couldn't be screened legally, which didn't stop that many places from showing it around, but they weren't supposed to. Not that you'd want to see it. It's terrible. It's very boring, even apart from all the gross bullshit, but for a while, people treated this as lost media. You can watch it on YouTube now, of course. There's a couple Blu-rays out. I think Something Weird still has a copy around. The legacy of the entire thing in terms of mainstream popular culture is that it supposedly played very, very well, especially in theaters that were owned by RKO, and that's the company who later put up the money for King Kong.
You know, monkey see, monkey do.
So it's not at all unlikely that someone looked at this piece of shit raking in all that money and said, okay, so what if we made a good version of this? And I don't know, maybe if the gorilla is, like, really big. And also, because its subject was so infamous, the title was borrowed as a sarcastic reference about a decade later for an otherwise unrelated mad scientist missing link horror movie made by black filmmakers called Son of Ingagi, which has the distinction of being, as near as anyone can attest, the first horror movie with an all African-American cast. So that's certainly something. I mean, it's certainly a better movie than Ingagi itself, which is really only memorable because of how absurd the existence of it is and maybe possibly inspired someone to make a better movie a few years after. So roundabout, that's how that connects to King Kong and what happened there, yeah.
Perhaps there is no moral to this story.
Exactly! It's just a bunch of stuff that happened.
But you know, it is easy to laugh at how obviously fake this is, given that 1930 wasn't really that long ago when you think about it, and people should have known better or caught on quicker. I mean, they did catch on. The whole thing got exposed and shut down pretty quick by back then standards of fraud, but it's not like the whole obviously fake movie causes trouble things stopped happening. People really did think the Blair Witch Project was real. That did happen, guys. Animal Planet got probably its harshest criticism ever for airing 2 docufiction specials about proof of mermaid discovery with only minimal disclaimers that they weren't meant to be taken seriously. The world remains profoundly filled with stupid people. More infamously, Cannibal Holocaust, an Italian found footage movie that includes real scenes of animal violence alongside realistic gore effects, saw its director put on trial in actual court and made to prove that all his actors were still alive and that he hadn't simply straight up murdered people to make that movie. And of course, there was also that time that has-been movie critic Chris Gore supposedly passed a videotape of a Japanese horror movie to has-been actor Charlie Sheen, which Sheen became convinced was an actual snuff film depicting real murder and reported it to the FBI, triggering an investigation. These days, the most interesting part of that story is that the least likable person involved is not Charlie Sheen. But Ingagi, you know, it happened. It may have inspired King Kong. It was regarded for years as somewhat lost media. It is absurdly racist, and in that way and other ways, a strange document of a time lost but not that far lost in American film. And it is certainly a movie that exists.